Hi everyone, hope you all are enjoying your weekend. Wanted to pop on here and talk about bar graphs. We will be discussing this early next week, so I wanted to give you some foundation to work from. First up, we are going to be talking about data. So data is an important term that we're going to need to learn, okay? It's one that's going to follow us through the rest of the school year. It's going to be found in all of your classes moving forward through grade levels. It's one we want to remember and learn. So data is a collection of information. It can be gathered by observation, through questioning, or measurement, but overall, remember that data is a collection of information, okay? So I knew that we were going to be doing this week. So last week, I took some data of my own. I observed how many times I thought about ice cream through Monday through Friday, okay? So you can see my totals listed above. Monday, 5 times, Tuesday, 9 times, Wednesday, 10 times, Thursday, 4 times, Friday, 7 times. So we know Miss Jones likes her organization, okay? So I went ahead and put those totals on the end. But if those totals weren't there, we would just have those tally marks, and that might be a little bit harder to read. So the question is, how can we present our data in a concise and clear way? Is there a way to do this? There is. And we're going to be doing this through bar graphs, okay? Most graphs, the reason for graphs is to condense and show information clearly, but we're specifically focusing on bar graphs this week, which are able to present information, data, clearly and quickly, okay? So on our left-hand side, we see the graph that's labeled Days of Snow. So that's our title. So we already know that this whole graph is going to be about days of snow, wherever this was taken, because we know it wasn't in San Diego, huh? So we have our months on the bottom here, so we know the data was collected between December and March. So we have data for December, January, February, and March. On the left-hand side, it says days of snow. So this indicates the days. So if we're reading this, December had 2 days of snow. January had 6 days of snow. February had 14 days, and March had 3 days. So it allows us to look at something and immediately know what we're looking at, okay? Helps present the data. When we are designing a bar graph, we have parts we need to consider. We have the title. That's a key because when someone's looking at our graph, we want them to know what they're looking at. So with this example, title is favorite type of apple. That's our title. And then we have our x-axis, which is right down here. And then we have our y-axis, which goes right up here. So our x-axis is what we are collecting data about. So for example, this one is apple. We're collecting data about apples. Our y-axis is what is being counted. So in this case, votes. Votes for our apples. Okay? The way I remember it is that our values, the numbers, are going to be on this side, the y-axis, and then our categories, which are red, green, and yellow, are along the x-axis. Now, I looked up a rhyme to help us remember how to differentiate the x-axis and the y-axis. And this rhyme is, get ready for it because I'm going to ask you on Monday, x to the left, y to the sky. Okay? So our x-axis is down here going to the left, y-axis is going to the sky, up and down. Okay? The important thing about a bar graph is to make sure we have labels. So we have our labels for the x-axis, which is apple, and then we have votes for the y-axis. And then we also need to label our categories. So our red, green, and yellow. I don't know about you guys, but I know yellow is my favorite. Now these bars are what is our data, okay? That's where the data goes in, right there. That indicates what the data is that we've measured. Then we have our scale on the side. That's labeled right here. The scale is how you see 0 to 2. So the scale is 2, and then it goes up 2, up 2, up 2. So that's where our scale is. And then we have our key. You may not always need a key, but sometimes you do, right? So our key represents that red is boys, those are the boys, and orange is girls. So then we have orange for girls. So if we're reading this, we look at, if I were to ask you, how many boys like red apples? So we know boys are red. We go here, because this is where the red apples are, and we go up. 9 boys prefer red apples. So let's do another one. How many girls prefer green apples? So how would we do that? We would look, we have the orange for girls, so we find the green apples, so orange and green. You follow this up. 5 girls prefer green apples. Okay, we're going to work on this more, but remember that the point of the graph is to be able to understand the information, data that is presented. Okay, so moving forward, we are going to I'm going to show you my data from my how many times I thought about ice cream listed. Okay, so if we're starting out, we want to make sure that we do the title. So how many times Miss Jones thought about ice cream? And then we have our x-axis and our y-axis. I just drew them to show you what they look like. You will not always need to put in your x and your y, okay? But I want to make sure you know which one is which, because that's going to be important moving forward. So remember, x to the left, y to the sky. Okay? Now we have our labels. So I went ahead and labeled the x-axis, which is days of the week. And then I went ahead and labeled the y-axis, which is the number of times Miss Jones thought about ice cream. Okay? I went ahead and put the categories in, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I have my scale, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is how you set it up initially. You want to set it up, you want your title, your X and Y, and you want all your labels. And then you want to go ahead and put your data in. So I have my 5 on Monday, my 9 on Tuesday, 10 on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday, and 7 on Friday. You won't always need to put these numbers on top, but since I did not use graph paper, I wanted to make sure they were easy to understand. You will be using graph paper eventually, but next week we will be working in groups and you will be using posters, so that's just something to think about, but eventually you will use graph paper. You can also use colors in your graph. I didn't on this, but I will show you what it will look like if you use colors. So I did this on Excel. It's a program that you can graph with, but don't worry about that. The point is I want you to see it clean and I want the colors labeled out. I just want you to be able to see it where it looks nice and organized. So this is what we're working towards. We want our information presented nicely, where we can look and say, how many times did Miss Jones think about ice cream last week on Wednesday? Well, on Wednesday, I thought about it 10 times. Okay? Eventually, we're going to think about, well, how many more times did Miss Jones think about it, ice cream on Wednesday versus Thursday? Well, I thought about it 10 times on Wednesday, and then I thought about it 4 times on Thursday. So there's a difference of 6 there, right? Now moving forward, I want to show you an example of why it's important to get our bar graphs down, okay? Because data, like I said, can be much bigger. It can include many more categories. It can include many more values. The scale is not always going to go up to 12, okay? So here's the next one. This is a big one. This is something we'd be working towards, okay? But this is the reason we learn about these, because you'll use these in your future lives. You'll use these when you become adults and step out into the world. So we want to make sure that we understand it early on so we can use it later, okay? So if we're reading this, we have our title, Fiction Book Sales, and then we have our labeled, everything's labeled, same thing. Now this is money over here, but it's about how much money was made from selling fiction books. We've talked about these in class. Now our key shows we have 5 categories for each year listed below, and each category has a different color, okay? This is what I'm talking about with a little bit more intense data, a little bit more complex, but still easy to navigate because of the bar graph. So if I asked you, how many what was the gross earnings, or what was the sales for classic novels in the year 2010, we would look at this right here, right? I'm going to guess that's about 10,000. This one's not labeled as well as we want ours to be, but the point is that data will be complex as we continue, and that's why bar graphs are important moving forward. Okay, looking forward to this upcoming week. I want you to think of fun questions you can collect data on. So maybe that's asking what the people's favorite animals are, or favorite fruit, okay? Because come Monday, you and your desk clusters are going to be working on a bar graph. You're going to be coming up with a question to ask your peers, and you're going to be putting a bar graph together based off what your classmates answer, okay? So when you come into class, I want you to make sure that you have some fun questions ready to go, okay? But your group is going to be deciding together. Also, to make sure we watch this video, I'm going to be asking what the rhyme is for the x and y axis. So I want you to make sure to tell me when I ask, okay? What is the rhyme? X to the left, Y to the sky. Okay, we'll be going over all of this a little bit more on Monday, but just wanted to give you a heads up on what we're doing. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I will see you Monday.